Alrighty, what is going on, Pats Nation? How we feeling today? Gonna give it a second for everybody to come on in, make sure that everything with the live is technically sound. Let me turn this down a little, actually. All right, make sure everything's sounding good. While everybody here rolls in, I'm gonna take one of these out. But it looks like Rise Productions, my guy, you were the first one in today's chat. Bill Belichick looks like he joined the chat today. What's going on? Can you watch my Pat type? 100%. 100% I will. I got you. But kind of give a little bit of an update here as everybody comes in. So today was supposed to be the live stream with Patriots football breakdown, as we all know. I've done several stuff on his channel. He's been on my channel before, so you guys are familiar with him. It's just good to get other perspectives on here to talk, kind of with myself for an hour. Can get kind of redundant, as I'm sure most people could understand. Having somebody else on here that knows the Patriots, makes content for the Patriots, it's easier to bounce off each other and have a genuine conversation. So that was supposed to be tonight. Unfortunately, there was a little issue. So that is going to be tomorrow now. It's going to be about 7 p.m. At least that's the time we're looking at, doing about 7 p.m. Eastern time. Patriots football breakdown coming on this channel. We are going to be talking about just the Patriots preseason in general, the Patriots offseason. We're going to break down each position. We're going to go from quarterback to running back, tight end, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, corners, the kicking competition, everything. We're going to break everything down from top to bottom. So we'll be with you guys for about an hour to an hour and a half doing that. It's going to be a great discussion, guys. This is going to be a really good live stream tomorrow. I highly, highly suggest if you guys can be there to be there, because like I mentioned, this is really going to be a good in-depth full breakdown of the team from top to bottom. But looks like we got some people in the chat. Overall, try to get started here. Today, I kind of want to do the same thing that we did last week, where we talked about the Patriots and the Washington football team. Kind of talk about that matchup, kind of some of the takeaways here. This was an insane game. And look, it's preseason. It's preseason. Let's just get that out of the way. People are going to say it's preseason, not regular season. 100%. But you don't get blowouts in the preseason. Even with teams that are like the best in the league, their games are still tight. For the Patriots to fully blow out a team, they only put up 35 points. But if I'm totally blanking on his name right now. The Patriots kicker, who for some reason his name right now I cannot remember. Forgive me as I deal with concussion issues still. But if he makes his kicks, the Patriots are putting up 40 plus points on the board. Still, the Eagles will be putting up 0. That says something. Like always, when we do get a donation, we go straight to that donation. As always, donations get top priority. So, Joey, I want to give you a big shout out for being the first donator of today's chat. Seriously, seriously helps me and the channel out, making this a full-time job when you guys, of course, help me, help give back to the channel, support the channel. So, again, means a lot, Joey. Really appreciate it. But you said, what's going on, Patriots Global? What's going on, Joey? The Patriots are looking better this preseason than in 2020. But then again, it's just preseason. So, yeah, it is just preseason. There's still a lot we have to see. You know what I'm saying? You're not necessarily seeing the starting offense and the starting defense at the same time. You're seeing kind of a little bit of mixed pieces put in there. But also, more importantly, what you are seeing from the opposing team is you're seeing a lot of their second, third, fourth strings. You are seeing some of their starting players from time to time. We saw that a lot week 1 in the preseason against the Washington football team. The Eagles didn't really do much of that. So that is something that you do have to take account for. But again, for the Patriots to fully blow out the Eagles the way they did, that also showcases their team, and not just because, hey, it's preseason. And yes, your boy did bring back the chocolate milk for this live stream because it's just an iconic thing, apparently. But again, Joey, huge shout out for that donation. Really appreciate you. But let's see. What other questions we got? But Antoine, Josh, Luke, Josiah covers sports, Mike, Patriots Media, Quinn Norton. Yes, I don't know why I blanked on that. Beast Mode's in the chat. We got another donation here from Paul. What is going on? Really appreciate that donation. You said, hey, man, here's a couple. Hey, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. No matter what the donation is, whether it's $10, we've had 50, we've had 100, whether it's 99 cents, much obliged, much appreciated, means more to me than I could possibly ever be able to tell you guys. So really do appreciate that there, Paul, for your donation. But Reggie is also in the chat. Reggie P, what is going on, buddy? Another big time supporter of the channel. He said the chocolate milk. Yes, the iconic chocolate milk that you guys have been seeing lately in my videos, as your boy does everything he can to try and bulk up. But we're here to talk about the Patriots, not about my life. So I'll just keep that to myself. Brady Anderson, buddy, what is going on? Reggie P again, buddy. Thank you again for that donation. But this channel is goated. Hey, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Another donation here from, I'm going to try to say it, Go Kart Kid. I got it. I think I got it. Really appreciate you for your $2 donation. Big shout out to you. You said, yo, what do you think about my guy, Rhamondre? So really, really, really good starting topic here. So I really appreciate that. It's a good point to just thrust us into this conversation. Rhamondre Stevenson has been unbelievable. He's averaged a little over 7. I believe it was like 7.7, something like that, yards per carry throughout the last 2 preseason games, along with 4 touchdowns. He has been spectacular. And if it wasn't for the fumble, I think we're potentially talking about Rhamondre Stevenson having a role for this offense in his rookie season. I'm not saying he was going to have a big role, but I think he could have potentially avoided that red-shirted year. Now that he fumbled, I just don't see him getting playing time. I think this is going to be a scratch for him. I think that this is going to be your James White, Damian Harris type of season where you come in as a rookie. Maybe he makes the roster. Maybe they put him on IR and just end his season to save a roster spot. But you're not going to see really any of Rhamondre Stevenson. He is saying he is getting more and more comfortable as he plays in these preseason games, which is great to hear. But Ivan Fears did say how Rhamondre Stevenson is still very behind the 8 ball. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how he performs in the preseason. If they feel that he's not ready, they are not going to put him in the game. And a big problem with Rhamondre Stevenson in colleges was ball security. What does Belichick and the Patriots coaching staff really punch upon their players at any position? Ball security, no turnovers. Unfortunately, Rhamondre Stevenson did do that while he is fighting to make a case for himself. He's not going to be cut, obviously, as a drafted player and how he's performing, but he is not going to likely get a lot of playing time now that fumble likely is what killed him. But I do love Rhamondre Stevenson, and he's going to be a really great piece for this team. Another donation here from Joey. Much appreciated and much obliged. Y'all are really showing out tonight, and I really, really mean it from the bottom of my heart when I said thank you. Y'all Chase is in here, so forgive me. But Joey, huge shout out to you. You said, imagine if the Patriots pulled a back to the 80s move and traded for a kicker with another team. We did it back in 1984 when we gave the Eagles a 6th-round pick for Tony Franklin. I don't think it's out of the question. It's a little bit tough with kickers because there is not 32 legitimate kickers in this league. If you think about good kickers, average kickers, reliable kickers, not every team has one, and there's still a majority of teams looking for that. Again, there's not 32 of those types of kickers, not 32 reliable, elite kickers. So the problem is who would the Patriots trade for? And what team would be willing to give up their kicker? It would have to be a situation where a team had two good kickers and they said, well, we're in a position where we only obviously need one. Let's ship one of these guys off. And from my current knowledge, I don't know any team that has two very good kickers at this time. So the Patriots are in a position where it's like, you're probably looking at free agency and you're looking at UDFAs. The kicker position is one of those just awkward positions in football where it's either a hit or a miss, and every single team, well, the majority of teams are still looking for that guy. So it's definitely not out of the question, and I wouldn't be opposed to it, don't get me wrong, but I think that there's the question of who would they really be able to trade for. At the end of the day, to make a trade, there has to be mutual interest between both sides, and I don't think anyone's going to want to give up their kicker just to give him up for like a 6th or 5th round pick. So, but again, if they were able to find somebody to trade for a reliable kicker, I would not be opposed to it whatsoever. I love chocolate milk. My man's got the chalky milk. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So do I think that we use, so this is mainly going to be a Patriots versus Eagles kind of recap in chat. But I do want to answer this question. It kind of ties into this Eagles game also. Brady Anderson asks, do I think that they're going to use Agholor more against the Giants? So Nelson Agholor didn't get a ton of playing time, but he also didn't get no playing time at all. He got about 14 total snaps, which was 18% of the total of offensive snaps. Obviously, really didn't get any looks. But at the same time, he has been dealing with an injury that kept him out of practice for a little bit. So it also wouldn't surprise me if maybe Belichick went, hey, we're going to put you out there, but we don't want you to potentially get injured in a preseason game. Nelson Agholor, and I might make a whole video on this, is a huge piece to this Patriots offense heading forward. Without Nelson Agholor, this Patriots offense really does operate from the short to intermediate route. And I think that's something that this team wants to do either way, be a run-heavy team that works the short to intermediate routes, take his deep shots when they're there. But the thing for the defense is that the opposing defense can easily crowd the short to intermediate route, crowd the line of scrimmage. So it's going to be very hard for the Patriots to be successful there if they don't have a guy who's able to stretch the field. Unfortunately, outside of Nelson Agholor, the Patriots don't have a guy who is able to stretch the field. They don't really have that speedster guy. You might say Trey Nixon, and while Trey Nixon is fast, yes, he is not ready to play in the NFL, and he is nowhere near the caliber of a Nelson Agholor. Nelson Agholor is a vertical threat. He is a deep threat, and his inline speed is really something that gives the Patriots that ability for an opposing defense to have to put a safety over the top and not play so close to the line of scrimmage, because you have to still account for Nelson Agholor to the point where they say, okay, we do have to put, a couple guys back deep, which will help the Patriots out in that short to intermediate route. So again, he's a big part to this Patriots offense to the point where maybe they were like, hey, we're going to put you out there for a little bit, run around, run some routes, see what you got, but we're going to tell Mac and Cam not to throw the ball to you. So I wouldn't really worry about it too much. As for what to expect for the third preseason game, I can't say 100% because this is the first year where we're seeing 3 rather than 4. Usually in the third game, we would see a good amount of these veterans play. And then the fourth preseason game, it would be second, third, fourth string players, and all of the starting guys would be out because they'd have to play the following week. Now that we're going to have a week or 2 off and no fourth preseason game, do the Patriots decide to throw more veterans in there and treat this as a regular third preseason game, or do they try to treat it as a fourth preseason game? That's kind of what I'm curious to see. But as long as Agholor can stay healthy, as long as they are treating this as a third preseason game, I would expect to see him out there more. But if they're treating this as a fourth preseason game, I wouldn't expect to see him out there too much. but also want to talk about kind of some of the players. I don't want to say I snubbed, because I genuinely was not trying to snub anybody from my winners and losers video. If you guys didn't check that out, I made a video here on YouTube where I talked about my winners and losers of the Patriots-Eagles game. I'm not going to tell you who was on it, but spoiler alert, there was a lot more winners than there was losers. That's what happens when you blow out a team 35-0, kind of a given. And I don't want to force anyone to be a winner or force anyone to be a loser just for my sake of the video. There were guys I wanted to put in as a winner. Unfortunately, we would have been here for a while if I did that. And the video was already like 20 minutes, so I didn't want to make pretty much everybody a winner on that list. Oh shoot, that's the wrong one. But Mick Goat. I said Mike. I'm sorry. Mick Goat with a donation here in the chat. Big shout out to you guys. Like always, as I said before, when we do get a donation, donations do take priority in every single live stream. So we go to the donations first, as always. You said it's bringing back Stephen Gustowski an option. I know he was signed with a team. Let me see if he is a free agent or not. So Stephen Gustowski is an American football placeholder or place kicker who is a free agent. So Gustowski is a free agent. He is 37 years old, though. It's an option for sure, but I don't think the Patriots would like to do that unless they genuinely have to. Even last year, I believe it was either last year or the year before, but I think it was last year with the Titans. Gustowski had some good moments, but he also had a lot of inconsistent moments. And we're talking about Nordin not making this roster because of his inconsistencies. At the end of the day, if you don't care about inconsistencies and you're just going with a guy with a good leg, then I would go with Nordin. Nordin can kick the ball from 60 plus yards. The problem is with consistency. He'll hit 4 straight in one game and then hit 2 out of 5 the next game. That's the problem. It comes down to consistency. The Patriots, and rightfully so, rather have a guy who can only kick from the 40 at the longest, but can punch it in every single time, versus a guy that can kick from 60 plus, but can only do it at an inconsistent basis. So it is still an option to bring back Stephen Gustowski, but I think the Patriots not signing him already and not having looked into him kind of says something. So as long as Nick Folk can be healthy for week 1, I think that's the role that the Patriots go with. And if not, then that's a whole other question. Big shout out to you, though, McGoat, for that donation. Reggie P is back in the chat with another donation. My guy showing out yet again. I think we should just make you the sponsor of Patriots Global. You said, what do you think about Jawan Williams? Can he take over the Jason McCourty role? You beat me to the punch, my guy. You beat me to the punch. Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about Jawan Williams at some point in this game because Williams doesn't have a great training camp, right? Looks a little bit slow, and I don't necessarily think he's physically slow. He has the size to obviously play. I think it's mentally. And you could say, well, he's been here for a few years. You think he should be one step ahead. And you can make that argument. But at the same time, he hasn't been given too much opportunities. Let's keep in mind that the Patriots have Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, Jason McCourty. So Jawan Williams never had to come in and be a first, second, or third cornerback, and he wasn't really given too much options because of all that depth put ahead of him. Now, Stephon Gilmore is a whole confusing situation. Jason McCourty left for the Dolphins and free agency. Now he has this opportunity to play, and he's getting more reps. He's getting starting reps, and I think that's really helping him out. But because he is mentally one step behind, it's showing that in his physical stature. You know, the guys that he's going up against and that he's guarding are always one step ahead of him because mentally, Jawan Williams is one step behind because he's thinking too much and he isn't just playing. But I think he's finally getting more and more comfortable. I don't want to jinx anything, but he's looked really good. And I think I have him making my final roster. I'm going to be doing a 53-man roster prediction video, but I do have uh, Jawan Williams making this final roster. I think he could definitely take over as CB3. I don't want to see him as CB1 or CB2, at least until he's able to show he can, which I don't know if he ever will. But if even he can play CB3, I think that's super beneficial. I'd rather him play CB3 than Jalen Mills. I'd rather see Jalen Mills at safety. But Jawan Williams played about 53% of the Patriots' defensive snaps against the Eagles, with 28 of them. He played really that entire game. And he was going up against Devontae Smith. I was about to say Devontae Adams for a second. He was going up against Devontae Smith, and he looked really good. There was only one time that Smith caught a ball. And I can actually tell you the exact stats here for Williams. So Williams recorded one total stop. In coverage, he was 1 for 2 for 5 yards. Quarterbacks had a passer rating of 56.3 when targeting him. So he held Devontae Smith to 5 yards on one catch. That's really good. And you might be saying, well, Devontae Smith, he isn't playing with his starting quarterback. Not to mention the fact that, hey, he, again, one, he's not playing with the starting quarterback, but two, it's preseason. You can try to make that argument, but Joe Flacco is still a veteran quarterback. He's still a very good quarterback who is in the game for the majority of the time. And nonetheless, whether the quarterback gets to Smith or not, Jawan Williams had very good coverage that entire game. Devontae Smith is a former first-round pick, Heisman winner. Therefore, he's obviously a very good player. He knows how to get open. And for Jawan Williams to pretty much be able to shut him out that game in man-to-man coverage showed a lot of promise. So I'm excited for Jawan Williams if he can continue this hype up. Let's see how he can do in the final preseason game. But most importantly, once he makes the final roster, which again, I do believe he does, can he continue this against higher level competition? Can he do this not against just like a rookie or second to third, fourth string receivers? That's going to be the question. And luckily enough, if he is CB3, you're not going to put him up against DeAndre Hopkins. You're not going to put him up against Odell Beckham Jr. or anything like that. So he should have more favorable matchups, but still at the end of the day, it's going to be a little bit more tough competition than what he's used to seeing in the preseason. Looks like we got my boy Felipe in the chat. Felipe, what is going on, buddy? How are we doing today? Big shout out to you for your $10 donation. Like always, much appreciated, much obliged. You said, what do you think the Pats will do with Winovich? Got a Winovich question here. He looks good in pass rush and actually looks like he can stop the run. Is it me or does Myers look a lot faster? Boy worked out his legs, LOL. So as for the Winovich question, unfortunately, he was injured for the majority of this offseason. He didn't play in minicamp, didn't play really at all in training camp. He came back like, I think the last practice or two before the game against the Eagles, which is why I was not expecting much from Winovich. I was like, is Winovich even going to play against the Eagles? He literally just returned the other day. Hasn't had a full week of practice. Are the Patriots going to want to put him in? Nonetheless, they did. And spoiler alert, Chase Winovich was actually a winner on my list against the Eagles. He had a very, very, very underrated game. Snap count here, I can actually tell you how much he played. He played as an edge defender, 36% of defensive snaps with 19 total snaps. And then he recorded statistically, he recorded 2 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, 1 pressure, and 2 stops. He looked fantastic out there. He didn't even play half of the snaps. He didn't even play 40% of the defensive snaps. And yet he went out there and recorded a beyond crazy statistical game with, again, not even playing half of the defensive snaps. I mean, 2 sacks, a quarterback hit, a pressure, and 2 stops. He is looking spectacular. Now, this is his first preseason game back. Like, I'm not someone who wants to bet the house on somebody in just one performance, one training camp, one preseason game, one regular season game. So we'll have to see if he can continue this up. Again, we can't really base this off of how he's performed this offseason because we didn't really get to see him in training camp, didn't get to see him in mini camp. So there's not too much we can go off of. But I said this to you guys before, so for anyone who is new, I'll reiterate it again. This offseason, Chase Winovich went to former Patriots defensive end / linebacker Rob Ninkovich, asked him, hey, how can I stay on the team? We're hearing that Winovich rather has really divulged himself into like just the style of Bill Belichick. Ninkovich told Winovich, wow, I did not realize how similar those guys' names were until now. But he basically told him, you want to stay on this team, you got to stop the run. You want to stop the run, you got to put on some weight. And that's why Chase Winovich definitely does look bigger this offseason because he did try to put on some weight in order to stop the run. He's always been a good pass rusher, and those stats show that he's a good pass rusher. But that's never been the question. The question has always been, okay, can he hold his own against the run? Whenever he had to set the edge against the run, it just looked like he was getting bullied out there. I think he looked a little bit better against the run, but at the same time, it's a preseason game against like the second to third stringers. So I don't want to bet the house on it just yet. But as long as he can look better against the run, then I definitely think he has a spot on this defense. We were talking a lot this offseason about, hey, could they put him at like middle linebacker because he wasn't playing so great on the edge and he was playing so one-dimensional. And he looked good at middle linebacker when they put him there a little bit against the Ravens. So we're talking about maybe that could be something that they do as a switch. Unfortunately, again, he wasn't there this offseason for them to be able to try him in different places. So it looks like he's likely going to stay as an edge defender. Also because we're seeing Van Noy, we're seeing Uche, we're seeing these guys that we expected to see a lot more on the edge being way more versatile, playing middle and inside, or playing middle and outside linebacker, which is something we talked about with doing with Winovich. So overall, I think Winovich is likely going to be staying as an edge defender. Maybe time to time they put him at linebacker, but for the most part, it looks like that is where he is going to play. But as for Jakobi Myers, he just somebody said the other day, they're like, why didn't you include Jakobi Myers in your winners video? Jakobi Myers is always a winner. Like that would be like including Tom Brady as a winner. You just don't do it because Tom Brady is always a winner. And I'm not trying to compare Tom Brady to Jakobi Myers at all or anything like that, but just in the same realm of he's always a winner. He's always looking good. He's open. He's reliable. And it's consistency. Like, it's just to give me that he's a winner. Don't expect him to be a winner on my list. And expect him, if anything, to be on one of these lists to be a loser because he'd have to show a good amount to be a loser. But he'd have to show even more to make a winner's video. Like, he'd have to put up like 200 yards to be a winner on my video. Like, genuinely surprised me because he's just spectacular game in and game out. But he does look faster. He does look good. He does look reliable. Each and every single year, Jakobi is looking better and better and better. Cross your fingers that we can keep Jakobi for the long haul, my friends, because really outside of him, I don't see like a future long-term receiver here for the Pats. But Felipe, thank you again for your donation and the comment. Really great discussion there. Brady Anderson makes an excellent point, saying everybody make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share the stream out, everyone. Yes, Brady, you got it exactly correct, guys. It would mean a lot to me if you just slam the like on this video. Even if you're not able to donate, I understand not everybody here is old enough to donate. Not everybody is able to. I get it. I've been there, done that. Trust me, I understand. But a way completely free that you can help me and the channel out is by sharing this video out with your friends, Send it on text message, send it on social media. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit that bell notification so you get notified for all my new videos, so that as soon as I post, you guys can click on that and watch it right away so that you are always up to date. But liking this video helps me and the YouTube algorithm out a lot, getting me out there more, growing this community. So just by hitting that like button takes you less than a second. Truly, truly helps me and the channel out a lot, and it costs you completely nothing. But I want to look at some of these other stats here. So offensive line here against the Eagles also was very underratedly good. Now, I don't want to hype it up too much, because at the end of the day, they didn't have Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. They didn't have really their starting defensive linemen that make up this Eagles D line, but they do still have good depth behind those guys. Obviously, Ryan Kerrigan also didn't play. Darius Slay didn't play. But they do still have good depth guys behind them, and it surprised me just how good this offensive line played. I'm going to read you the blocking miscues for the offensive line here. So, Corey Cunningham, these are for the offensive tackles. Corey Cunningham was clean. And if you're clean, that means you didn't allow a sack, you didn't allow pressure, you didn't allow a quarterback hit. So Corey Cunningham, clean. He had a 90.5 run blocking grade. Yadni Kajust, clean. 62.5 run blocking grade. Yadni Kajust, guys. Yadni Kajust steps up. Finally. Like, this is a game where I actually looked at the offensive lineman and went, oh my God, that's Yadni Kajust. He finally stood out to me. And again, we'll have to see if he can continue this up, but we've been waiting for this moment for Yadni Kajust. I believe he was a third-round pick in the 2019 draft. We've been waiting for him to do something, and he hasn't, because he's been injured for so long. Maybe the slow process for Yadni Kajust is because he hasn't played football in multiple years, and this is his first offseason back to football in multiple years, and maybe that's why. But if he can continue to develop the way he has and what he showed against the Eagles, maybe the Patriots have a potential backup tackle and a legitimate backup tackle heading forward. Justin Herron, clean also, 53.7 run block grade. RJ Prince, 1 pressure, 1 hurry, 56.1 run blocking grade. Trent Brown, clean with a 72.2 run blocking grade. And Isaiah Wynn, also clean for a 78.2 run blocking grade. As for the guards here, Marcus Martin allowed a pressure and a hurry with a run blocking grade of 72.3. Alex Redmond easily had the best game, I would probably say, of his career. Definitely the best as a Patriot, but I think also the best of his career. He had 1 pressure, 1 hurry, and an 86.5 run blocking grade. He looked very good when it came to opening holes up for the running backs in this game. William Sherman, clean, 56.1 run blocking grade. Shaq Mason, clean, 56.4 run blocking grade. Michael Onwenu, 2 pressures, 2 hurries, 78.2 run blocking grade. And then also for the centers, Ted Karras and James Ferentz and David Andrews all were clean. For the most part, every single offensive lineman had a pretty perfect game. Can we just take a second to really appreciate that? Now, we'll have to see if this can continue up. Obviously, we didn't see this week 1 against the Washington football team, but this is something that we did see this past weekend. If they can keep it up, I'm really excited for the potential here. Get to some of your questions here. Crispy Chris says, what's going on, PG? I'm starting to get worried about the Stephon Gilmore situation as we're getting closer and closer to week 1, as he's the most important player on our defense. What do you think about it? I'm there with you. I think ultimately they get something done with Stephon Gilmore. Let's keep in mind that we have 1 more preseason game. We don't have a 4th week, which gives the Patriots 1 to 2 extra weeks to be able to get this done with Stephon Gilmore before week 1. That is going to be like a good 1 to 2 weeks where, guys, this is like radio silent. This is like radio silent on the team, because training camp practices to the media are going to end with the joint practices with the Giants. So you only have about, I think, two or three more opportunities to see this team in action in training camp, and then you're done for the summer. I think within those couple of weeks, that's going to be the perfect time to get something done with Gilmore. I mean, Belichick doesn't really like to get contract extensions done or really work on contracts when they're kind of in the midst of other things. That's why you don't really see contract extensions during the season. And he doesn't really like to also do those during training camp. He likes to do those more during the kind of off periods where there's not really much going on. So I think that following this preseason game against Giants and the next 1 to 2 weeks is probably going to be about the perfect time for this kind of Gilmore situation to be figured out. At the end of the day, I do expect him to play week 1. If Belichick firmly believed that he wasn't going to, he would have done something at cornerback. Okay, Belichick knows the issues here at cornerback. He knows Michael Jackson, Miles Bryant, whatever. They're not going to be the answer as a CB2, CB3. It's just not going to happen. He's seen the struggles all offseason, just like we have, and I'm sure he's seen it even more because he's Belichick. So to me, that says that Stephon Gilmore will at least be back for this upcoming season. I'm more worried about what happens after the 2021 season. I hope that they can get an extension done with Gilmore or JC Jackson. If not both of them, both would be amazing. But get an extension done with one of those guys before, they hit the open market. Because if we get to free agency and both of those guys have hit the open market, it's going to be a really tough situation for the Pats. Brady Anderson, anytime, my guy. Well said in your Aussie video, Brady. I appreciate that. Also, just some thoughts I was having. If you guys haven't checked out my thoughts on what the Patriots will do with Devin Asiasi, the former third-round tight end, go ahead and check that video out. Also, is Cam Newton going to start week 1 of the regular season? 100%. I've said this probably multiple times to you guys, like in live streams and videos, that I don't think that this is Mac Jones' job to win, but more so Cam Newton's job to lose. And what I mean by that is if Cam performs how Cam is performing, like right now, and he can do that on a consistent basis, but Mac Jones kind of progressively gets better, Mac Jones isn't going to start. At the end of the day, if they redshirt rookie running backs, you don't think they're going to redshirt their franchise quarterback? I mean, come on. Mac Jones is looking great, but just imagine Mac Jones next offseason, next year in 2022, completely comfortable, completely has everything under his belt, and will have 2 off seasons before starting his first season under the team. Imagine that. I think that's going to be more than beneficial for him. A lot of people don't understand the confidence aspect also, especially for somebody like Mac Jones, who's very hard on himself. The last thing you want is for him to go out not completely ready, make a bunch of mistakes, have his confidence get low. Then he's all up in his head, making even more mistakes, and before you know it, he's a bust of a first-round pick. Throw them out there when they're ready, when they're confident, and I think the best way of doing so is having Mac Jones sit out this upcoming season. Now, of course, if Cam Newton gets injured, Cam Newton starts performing like he was at times last year, then okay, I understand putting in a Mac. But if Cam Newton can perform at a consistent basis like he is right now, you keep Cam Newton in there for the 2021 season. Big donation here. A big shout out to Keaton McNair for a $20 super sticker. Huge shout out to you. That is a huge donation. Much love to you, Mr. McNair. You're popping off. You are popping off for me tonight. You guys are all popping off for me tonight. I really appreciate everybody showing up to today's live stream. Again, guys, if you haven't hit the like button, make sure to do that. But I really appreciate you guys giving back to me in the channel today. As you all know, I'm gonna get a little sad for you guys here for a second. But unfortunately, your boy did just get in a car accident. So basically what happened, I understand you guys probably like, yo, we're here to talk about the Patriots, but I know some of you are genuinely like have asked me what was going on. But basically was on the highway. Next thing I know, a deer comes in and hits me from the side. Doesn't go in front of my car, but hits me in the side. If that deer is a little bit closer this way, that thing goes right through my door. But unfortunately, my car is now totaled. Your boy has to get a new car. And gotta get the money for that. So you guys are genuinely helping me out here with the support, with the donations, with watching the videos through. The longer you guys watch my videos, the more helpful it is with the YouTube algorithm. You guys liking the videos helps me out a ton, and you guys giving back. If you guys do also want to give back to the channel and get benefits for it, join the Patreon. This weekend, probably this Saturday, I'm thinking it's what it's going to look like. We are going to be doing a Patreon member video chat. I don't know if it's going to be through Zoom or if it's going to be through Discord, but everybody that is a Patriots member, we're going to come together, we're going to video chat, and we're all just going to bounce off each other and talk about the Patriots and our thoughts, what's going on. I'll answer questions. I'll ask you guys some questions. So basically, if you guys would like to give back to the channel, get some exclusive content, if you guys would like to join that video chat, feel free to join the Patreon. There's always a link in the description. There's a link in the description right now. $10 a month. You guys get benefits, and it supports the channel tremendously. But Felipe here with another chat, $5 donation. Much appreciated here, Felipe. You said, who will start as running back one? Hear me out. But Sony looks better to me. He jukes better and runs the ball. I don't know all the hype on Damien Harris. So I completely understand where you're going. I don't actually think that there's going to be a pure cut number one running back. I think your number one running back is basically going to be defined as, hey, who do the Patriots decide to go with on goal line situations, in red zone situations, when they give the ball off to the running back and have them punch it in for 6? That's going to be your starting running back, which I do still think they'll switch off between Damien and Sony, but I do think for the most part, we are going to see Damien Harris be that guy in the red zone who punches the ball in. More so because the Patriots did a lot of goal line red zone work with their running backs in training camp, and Damien Harris punched the ball in more consistently in the end zone than Sony Michel did. I think that was kind of them trying to see what guy was best in that situation. At the end of the day, Damien Harris was going to. But as for, just running backs in general, it's going to be split between Damien Harris and Sony Michel. You'll probably see J.J. Taylor get some snaps time to time. You'll see James White get snaps from time to time. But your two backs who I really think are going to be split between each other are going to be Sony Michel and Damien Harris. I think Damien Harris will get a little bit more looks. But again, I agree. Sony Michel has looked very, very, very underrated. And I've tried to talk a good amount about him because I feel like a lot of people haven't. He has looked spectacular. He looks faster this offseason. He looks elusive, but he looks healthy. For the first time since Damien Harris, but Sony Michel entered the NFL, he played a full offseason. Sony usually is not here for the majority of the offseason. Usually isn't here for the start of training camp because he's dealing with some type of injury. This is the first offseason. That wasn't the case. He was here for an entire offseason. All of training camp, isn't dealing with injuries, here for preseason, and is ready for week 1. And I think that is boding super well for him. He looks better as a pass blocker, but most importantly, he looks better as a pass catcher. Out there in the preseason, he looks like a guy that when these quarterbacks are under duress, they can go to Sony Michel and they can rely on him. As we're the first year or two of Sony in the NFL under the Patriots system, not really involved too much in the passing game, but when he is, seems like he ends up dropping the ball. He's just not comfortable. But he's showing more from what we saw as Sony Michel in college and what we were expecting as a first-round pick. Sony Michel being more dynamic. Obviously, we know he's great as a running back. He put up over 900 yards in both of his first 2 seasons, and then even put up a good season last year also, despite missing about half the season with injury, but is looking more dynamic and not so one-dimensional, which is going to get him on the field more often. Unfortunately, I do still think this is Sony's last year with the Patriots, but I do think that this is going to be a really good year for Sony Michel. And yeah, I don't think that there's really necessarily one pure running back as you see with like the Titans, or you see with the Giants, or you see with the Cowboys with Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, where those guys get pretty much 90 to 95% of the work each and every single week. You're not going to see that with the Patriots. Excellent point there, Felipe. This is another good question. Um, I know we're shying a little bit away here. I know we talked a good amount about the Eagles in the beginning of this video. So if you didn't see the beginning of this video, go ahead and rewind it and check that out. Um, but what's the future here for James White with the Patriots? I think in some ways this is a make it or break it year for James White. He had a pretty down year. And I mean that statistically, and I don't want to be rude, which is why I'm kind of trying to walk on eggshells here because he has a reason. He was dealing with a lot emotionally. It was a pandemic filled season. I completely understand it, but nonetheless, from a football standpoint, from a business standpoint, you can't deny the fact that that was a very, very bad year for James White. Didn't really look good as a running back, did not look good as a pass catcher. Even this offseason, still dealing with some dropping issues. If he cannot get back to the James White we've seen the last several years, the Patriots are likely going to move on. If J.J. Taylor can continue to look good in the passing game, J.J. Taylor could potentially be the guy that takes over that James White role. James White only signed a 1-year deal with the Patriots, which to me says he's kind of trying to reset that market. If he can't look like the old James White, I think the Patriots end up moving on. So I'm going to say right now that this is James White's last year with the Patriots also. I do quickly want to revert back to the Patriots versus Eagles discussion here as another winner on my list, who I didn't include in my winners video, was Harvey Longy. He played spectacular, and he had a little bit of an up and down game week 1 against the Washington football team, but he played 58% of the Patriots defensive snaps for 31. That was tied with Cash Maluia, with who also had 58%. And statistically, I can tell you, he recorded 1 sack, 3 stops, 1 missed tackle, and an interception. Harvey Longy put up an excellent game. And like I said, he had a little bit of an up and down game last week against the Washington football team. He made some plays, but also made some negative plays also. He's somebody that, me personally, I would keep Harvey Longy over a Brandon King at this point, who's been dealing with injuries the last several years. I think the majority of people even forget that Brandon King is on this team, as sometimes I do too. You don't see him out on the field. You don't see him making plays. He's really strictly just a special teamer. At this point, if you can get someone who can play special teams like Harvey Longy, but you can also get somebody who's going to bring you depth and actual production as a defensive player also, that is someone that I would go with. And the Patriots are going to have to make some hard decisions here. But with Raekwon McMillan out for the season, someone who I did have making my final roster, that's another spot where someone could take that spot now. And I think Harvey Longy isn't necessarily pinning himself in to take that spot. He would be one of the last guys on the roster for me for the 53-man roster. He'd be like somewhere between 50 to 53 in my personal opinion. So I don't think he's necessarily fighting against the other linebackers, but he's fighting against the Patriots' other wide receivers. He's fighting against the Patriots' defensive linemen, fighting against like a Carl Davis, Christian Wilkerson, Isaiah Zuber, other guys that are on the bubble of making this roster. I think he's fighting up against those guys to try and finally make it. But I think he's looked spectacular. If they could get him on the practice squad, if he is cut, that would be ideal. But with how he's performing, I think there's a chance that another team would definitely pick him up. All right, let's check out some of these comments. Len, what is going on? And again, we did talk about the Stephon Gilmore situation. So if you do want to rewind, we talked a little bit about that whole situation in the future with that. Viro, what's going on? Yeah, I heard Damian Harris gave you a fist pump. That's elite, my guy. That's elite. I mean, I thought they couldn't touch y'all, but hey. Am I concerned about the Tennessee Titans for this upcoming season? Originally, I was not. And I can't say I'm completely worried. Like, I don't see the Titans as like the Bills or the Chiefs. Like, those are teams that worry me. The Titans are definitely up there. Before, they really didn't worry me too much. It was a little bit, but Then they added the addition of Julio Jones, which kind of skyrocketed that a little bit more so. I'm not freaked out the way I am the Chiefs or the Bills, but it is definitely up there. I do have the Patriots losing to them this upcoming season. Originally had that a win, trade for Julio Jones. I think they became a more dynamic offense, especially after losing Corey Davis. That kind of for me with some of their losses, Johnny Smith and Corey Davis, I thought that there was going to be a little bit of a down year for the Titans, which is why I had the Patriots winning. Then they signed Julio Jones. And I think that's an excellent addition for their offense. Again, makes them more dynamic. So I think they'll have a good season, and I do have the Patriots losing to them. As for how will the playoffs go about, it's too early to say. It's way too early to say that. I think we have to see how these teams actually go about. It's really easy to say, hey, the Patriots added 2 top 10 tight ends. They added Matthew Judon. This is a Super Bowl team, but until you see all those pieces together and they're genuinely going to work, it's all speculation. Let me make sure there's nothing else here I wanted to talk about defensively. Like I said, guys, tomorrow we will be going live. Patriots football breakdown coming on this channel. We're looking at about 7 p.m. Eastern time for all of you guys who are going to be able to make it. Guys, if you are able to make it 7 p.m. Eastern time, if you are not doing anything, if you are able to come and watch the live stream, I highly recommend it, guys. We are going to be doing a full breakdown of this New England Patriots team from top to bottom. We are going with Patriots football breakdown. We're going to be bouncing off each other, sharing our opinions, answering some of your questions. But we are be going from quarterback, wide receiver, running back, O-line, D-line, every single position. And we are going to be talking about those guys. So if you guys can join tomorrow, it's going to be a big, in-depth, really good discussion. So I really hope to see all of you there. And like I said, share with some of your friends because this is going to be probably the best discussion we've had leading up to week 1. But I think we're going to end this one off here today. To me, there wasn't as much to talk about here with the Philadelphia Eagles, just because, again, the Patriots blew them out. The Patriots looked great. We talked about the offensive line. I talked a lot about these guys in my winners and losers videos also. I don't want to be too redundant. If you do want to check out my winners and losers from the Eagles game, check out who I thought performed well, why I thought they performed well, and why they're a winner, along with why I thought the guys on the losers list were losers. Go ahead and check that video out. Give it a thumbs up. Give this live stream a thumbs up. But nonetheless, I appreciate everybody who showed out today. I appreciate everybody who donated to the channel also. I do want to also give a shout out to the sponsors of this video. You guys really showed out, so I guess you guys are also the sponsors of this channel. But BetOnline.ag has been a sponsor of my channel for a while. And they have really helped support me along the way. So big shout out to them. They have the fastest, the easiest ways to bet on all of your sports action. Football's finally coming back along with other sports that you can bet on. They even have awards TV shows and reality TV you can bet on. They also have real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. And they have you covered for all of the news, scores, and odds. And it's the best way to place your bets, and it's completely free to sign up. All you guys got to do is head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That is BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Don't forget to use that promo code CLNS50 to receive a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. But when do we start seeing this week's cuts? I want to answer this question before we end this live. So I think the Patriots have to cut down to like 5 players. Like they have to cut 5 more players or something like that. I'm not sure if they have to cut 5 players or if last week they had to only cut 5 players. From what I've been told, from what I've personally been told, the Patriots will like they had to cut down 5 players last week. And then this week they can roll along with those 85 players, but they have to get down to 53 then by like I think it's like a week before the start of the regular season. So the final cuts are a couple weeks away. Following week 3, I would say within a week. Within a week, you will see players start to get cut down for that 53-man roster. But I do have a 53-man roster prediction video coming for you guys. I do have to record hopefully tonight to have that out for you. So hope that does answer your question there, Poland. Buddy, thank you again for your donation and your donations today in general. And again, thank all of you. But I will catch you guys tomorrow with Patriots football breakdown. Make sure you guys check out my other content if you have not already. But like always, appreciate you guys for watching. Go Pats.